funny? I think the creators of this movie was looking around in the history books and was like, how can we misrepresent African slave traders and portray them as hero warrior women? And they found the Agouti tribe, of course. Now, before I continue, I just want to give a special shout out to the low integrity, low testosterone movie reviewers who don't pick up a book or do research before they shill out every single thing they get paid to praise. Shout out goes out to you guys, man. I already know I'm going to see the comments. I'm going to see all the freaking movie reviewers praise this movie out of fear of scrutiny. Also, per Hollywood movie agendas, I'm not going to lie to you, this one is actually hilariously insulting. Number one, because black women to this day have been fighting the masculine dark woman, dark skinned black woman stereotype for literally the longest time in American history and culture. And in response to that, what does Tone Deaf Hollywood do? They make a movie perpetuating the masculine dark skinned black woman stereotype. That is hilarious to me. And of course, per usual, black men in modern movies, and this is no exception, black men in this movie are emasculated because it's 2022 and that's what we just gotta portray. The men in this movie are either violent grapists, misogynistic, or blatantly incompetent, and including but not limited to humiliated in this movie. So the story follows the soon-to-be Woman King because apparently being called the Queen is apparently a weak title, probably because it has something to do and associated with femininity, which we already know in this movie, femininity in women is seen as a weakness. Of course, unless it's men showing femininity, of course, then it's seen as a strength. But this movie is exactly what you think it is. It is a bunch of women going around hating men and complaining about men and how evil they are. Like literally, it's almost constant, scene after scene. I kid you not. And when they're not constantly shoving down your throat that men are nothing but useless meat bags, literally, I think there's only one black woman in this movie that likes a black man, or a woman that likes a man in general. Literally, there's only like one. But then again, if politics on any social media platform is anything to go off of, that message in this movie is honestly getting very accurate, to say the least. So hey, but that is where accuracies in real life in this movie end pretty much. Because this movie is definitely giving off 355 energy, where we have a bunch of women who look like they can barely bench press their own body weight, can freely and easily defeat men more than twice their own size and body weight. And I know there was a line saying things like, oh, the overweight muscular men, oh, it makes them slow, they're too big and slow and confident. Even though in real life, believe it or not, there are big, bulky men who are very fast, especially if they are in MMA or any type of martial arts. So yeah, you already know that just goes over their heads. And again, we follow the main character, the soon-to-be Woman King, on her journey to become, well, the Woman King. And her secret daughter that survived after she knowingly abandoned her own daughter due to a, let's just say, less than desirable conception, if you know what I mean. Translation, she was raped by a freaking black man, because of course she was. And before you say, oh, but isn't that accurate to the source material, aka actual historical events? And no, it is not accurate whatsoever. In fact, funny thing is, most of this movie is completely entirely fictional. They lied and made up most of the plot just to make a strong, independent black woman film who don't need no men. And they had to butcher historical events just to make it happen. I mean, after all, the crew of this movie said that this movie isn't a history lesson, it's a moral education. Translation, it is preachy garbage. Also, by the way, they barely show the African slave traders, aka the Dahomey tribe, the one that, this movie focuses on a great deal of. They hardly ever show, and when they do show it, it's like a blink and you'll miss it moment where they actually do slightly allude or slightly show the events of them actually trading their own people. Because, it's gutless modern day Hollywood, so of course they have the spine of a freaking slug. All that aside, most of this movie is just boring and really unbelievable at a lot of points. I would say a majority of the points of this movie was just genuinely just uncompelling. I didn't care for most of the things in this movie. Also, before I get those comments, because I know they're going to be there, it's not the fact that women are in this movie that I have a problem with. It's the fact that they consistently make these type of woman girl boss movies. They are always poorly written movies, poorly directed movies, and they use the race or the gender of the actors to shield themselves from any criticism at all. And as per usual, they will have the Access Media do damage control. But as we already know, integrity is not really Hollywood's strong suit. We already know that. I will say the only plotline that was remotely interesting was the main character, but then again, that's just the bare minimum when it comes to telling a story. At least make the main character's story interesting. And nothing else really matters because it is made up, fake, and inaccurate to say the least. I think the relationship and the mystery between the orphan warrior woman in training was actually decently alluded to, and the bonds between the two characters were actually pretty compelling, not gonna lie to you. And it had a very sweet and honestly obvious message, but in modern degenerate culture, apparently it needs to be spelled out that your children are not to blame for the horrible events and horrible happenings that happen to the small minority of women. They are just as much as victims of circumstance as the unfortunate women who this happens to sometimes. All in all, this movie was pretty painful to get through. I'm not gonna lie to you. It was just like, yeah, we already know what this is gonna be. It's another 355 or any other girl boss feminist movie that came out in the past 3 years alone. If you like this movie, fine, clearly it was made for you. But I personally found it insulting and a little disrespectful, to be perfectly honest. Like, this movie is basically saying, oh, we need to handhold you. You darkies, you can't handle the truth. You can't handle the real message in this movie. You can't handle the fact that your own people did this, that, and the third. It's like they literally treat the black community as if we're children and can't handle our own history. It's crazy to me. What you trying to say, modern Hollywood? We too emotional? We can't handle it? Because I can. I mean, hey, I just find it funny that this was the story you decided to go with. At the end of the day, those are my thoughts on the movie The Woman King. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Like, comment, subscribe, do all the good stuff, and I will see y'all in the next video. Peace.